So one of the biggest problems in Zimbabwe is that it's treated as a hobby or a sideline. Pedigree breeding, you can sell things for a higher price. So over thousands of years, cattle have been in this part of the world. So there's an interesting equation that sometimes people say, that 10,000 hours of anything makes you an expert. In ideal conditions, I would like to calve once a year, but I don't have ideal conditions, and I think a lot of people in Zimbabwe don't have them. Some people will bull all year round, just leave the bulls in. That's okay, that's fine as well. Pedigree breeding requires you having a reputation as a breeder. And one of my big worries with the pedigree industry at the moment is if we don't keep our auction houses alive, like CC Sales, who does the National Bull Sale, how are we going to hold the National Bull Sale?
So when we are looking at cattle farming, it seems like it's a long-term investment.
Yes, so cattle farming is, I would always say, is a medium to long-term investment. I'm saying these must take this grass, that's the ordinary grass that's on the ground here, and produce it into gold in my pocket. That's what I want.
Grass into gold.
Okay, so that is our policy here. Pedigree breeding requires you having a reputation as a breeder, and that comes over a long period of time, and you achieve that by detailed management on the ground. Consistency, you have to have consistent performance all the time, from your staff, from yourself, from your management structures that you've got in place. You've got to, because remember, if you sell a bad bull to somebody, your reputation has gone out the window.
Oh.
So, because they will talk to their neighbors and say, I got a bull from Zimbabwe stud and it wasn't very good, and then that's my name gone. So you have to have a consistent product all the time. So although you can sell your animals for a higher price, you can't do pedigree breeding unless you live on the farm. Some people have tried it and they don't live on the farm, but then you have to have a really good manager. And when I say a good manager, first of all, you've got to know what he's doing and be a good manager, and you have to give him the resources. Because a lot of people put a manager in place, but then they don't give him the dip he needs or the feed that he needs to put in at the right time.
Am I supposed to focus on one breed only, or I'm supposed to even focus on other breeds?
So there's an interesting equation that sometimes people say, that 10,000 hours of anything makes you an expert. And if you're putting 10,000 hours in, if I'm putting 10,000 hours into Tulis, I get there quicker to be an expert at them. If I'm trying to now split myself between Tulis and Brahmins, and I'm putting 5,000 hours into Brahmins and 5,000, it's going to take me double the time to be an expert. Also, so for me, it's better if you focus on one thing. Having said that, some people do a number of breeds and they do it well, but understanding that you need a lot of resource, because you can't mix the cattle. When we've put the bulls in, we can't put the Brahman bulls in the Tuli unless we're doing commercial breeding. Pedigree breeding, you have to have separate breeding herds, and you have to have separate herds for separate genetics. How many of us have access to beautifully laid out farms with paddocks where we can separate out all the different bulls into different herds and different breeds into different herds? It's not a common thing in Zimbabwe anymore. Managing different breeds together, you can use some tools like AI and that sort of thing, but it all depends on your structures that you've got on the ground and the resources that you've got on the ground to do it.
It seems like you don't encourage phone farming, you encourage people to be on the ground.
Biggest mistake people make with cattle farming is that people treat it as a side hobby. I'll just buy a few cattle and put them out in the musha with my gran or my aunt, and they will make me money, If you're going to do cattle, you've got to think of it as a crop. You've got to